The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country.
Thank you for choosing us.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment.
That is, of course, the voice of President Joe Biden announcing early this morning with a 6 a.m. release of the video that you just heard, of the audio that you just heard, announcing that he is indeed running for president again in 2024. This is despite 51% of Democrats in a new poll saying that they do not want Joe Biden to run again. And that's despite the fact that 70% of Americans, including some Republicans who are never going to support him, who are stating that they don't want him to run again. 60% of Americans are stating that they do not want Donald Trump to run again. In both cases, well, in the case of Joe Biden, at least, they are citing his age. And for the case of Donald Trump, they're citing his indictments. So the cases are uniquely different, even though they're very close in age. I do have a question for that 51% of Democrats. Did you not know how old he was in 2020? And did you not do the math? and knowing that electing a man as old as he was in 2020, that if he were to even make it to a second term, that he would be around 86 years old at the end of his second term. This is not to be ageist, but let's just be real. If you're citing age as a concern now, he was on the same trajectory when we were telling you to vote for somebody else in the primaries of 2020. Now, when it came down to the general election, we did what we had to do. I supported the man. I voted for him. And yeah, if he runs again, I'm going to vote for him again. You know why? Because on the other side of the equation, we are dealing with theocratic fascists. We're dealing with white supremacy. We're dealing with Nazis. We are dealing with insurrectionists, treasonous traitors, to be redundant, who seek to overthrow the United States of America on behalf of white supremacy and white grievance. So, yeah, if you ask me what time it is, it's time for people to honestly know the score, right? I understand the lay of the land. We simply cannot afford to allow candidates like Robert Kennedy Jr. to sandbag the entirety of our ability to simply hold the line, because that's all I had an expectation of Joe Biden. In fact, I have it on the record. You can go back to several episodes. My expectation of Joe Biden as president was two things. He let me down on one, but the other one was just don't be a fascist. You know, it was help us get out of the pandemic, which he didn't do. I'm sorry. Like, let's just keep it 100. We're still in the pandemic. We're just pretending like it's gone, and that has come underneath the watch of Joe Biden. I get it. The CDC and all the powers that be realize they're dealing with an ungovernable body of people who are more concerned about their conspiracy theories. They're more concerned about their ability to not wear a mask than they are concerned with their own personal health. And they're certainly not concerned about public health. So I get it. The CDC and the Joe Biden administration just threw in the towel. I'm sorry. That's a complete and abject failure to me. But, you know, what would have been underneath Donald Trump? Could it have been worse? Yeah, you know, because Donald Trump is Donald Trump. I'm sure they would have found a way to make it even worse than it already is. But I still mark that in the category of a complete and total failure of the Biden administration when it comes to COVID-19. The other expectation that I had of him, he's doing an okay job at. He's not a fascist. He is not a Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis level fascist that is certainly trying to move this country into the arms of a new global world order, a right-wing reactionary order in the lines of Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, and the rest of this global cabal that is seeking to revoke the entirety of modernity and to end the liberal democratic experiment altogether. At least we got I got one out of the two things that I wanted out of the president. Just don't be a fascist. And here we are coming up to 2024. And the people who actually believed in Joe Biden, sorry, if I don't sound like if I'm not convincing you that I like Joe Biden enough, or if I'm making you think that I like Joe Biden too much, don't really care this morning. All I know is that when we have to choose in 2024, we cannot afford to allow a Ron DeSantis or a Donald Trump to get into power. It's just that simple because there's too much on the line. Later on in today's episode, I'm going to be going over the new target of the group Moms for Liberty, which is doing the beckoning call of Ron DeSantis, and they are targeting school board superintendents all over the country. Right now, they're targeting a black superintendent in the state of Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, and they're targeting her for removal. And you know what? This is the strategy that is being employed all over the country because the people we are fighting against, these right-wing reactionaries, these theocratic fascists who are more concerned with banning books about black history, about being gay or LGBTQIA, they're more concerned with that because they want to control the religion and the spirituality and just the life of every single person on this planet. That is their stated goal with trying to force the quote-unquote kingdom of God on everyone. And that's just one arm of this three-headed monster that is the global right-wing reactionary movement, the theocratic fascists. We haven't even delved over into the right-wing reactionaries in this particular conversation, right? So these are the people that we are standing against. And I'm sorry, America, you chose Joe Biden to be the defender against this group in 2020. And now he's choosing his prerogatives to run again. He has the right to run again. He has the control. He's the leader of the Democratic Party. The DNC is not going to allow any primary debates in the build up to 2024. And honestly, with the likes of Robert Kennedy Jr. being there, why would they? Why would they allow someone like Robert Kennedy Jr., who has spent the majority of yesterday lamenting and mourning over the loss of Tucker Carlson at Fox News? We'll talk about that in a minute, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. What matters is that we have people who are committed to ensuring that the right-wing reactionaries win. Robert Kennedy Jr. is one of those individuals, and he expects to be able to be given a platform to undermine our collective fight against fascism. There's quite a bit of ambivalence in my heart regarding Joe Biden because he's only 1 for 2 for me. I mean, in terms of the black community, where are we on the George Floyd Justice Act? Where are we in terms of that? Where are we in terms of protecting the Voting Rights Act? I mean, there's going to be a lot of black folks who can't even vote for Joe Biden because, you know, they couldn't whip Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema into line. So there's a lot to criticize Joe Biden over ferociously. But I'm sorry, guys, gals, non-gender conforming friends, when we are in the fight for our lives, just simply for democracy, just a modicum of democracy, not even a real full-fledged democracy where all people are created equal and treated equally underneath the law, right? That we don't have that. What we do have is a fighting chance because we held the line in 2020, and now it seems like quite a few people are saying, let's just roll the dice in 2024. Okay.
Has just come down that Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. And thank you for his service to the network and host of a prior contributor. Wave. We'll talk more about it tomorrow but we wanted to make sure that we let you know what was going on.
Well, can I ask the audience if they'll help me do something? Come on, folks. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, goodbye. Na 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 na.
Yeah. That was Anna Navarro with the na hey hey, and then of course Whoopi Goldberg, both of The View. When the news dropped yesterday morning, it was just after the podcast was released that's the one thing about being, the early bird in this podcasting game is the news hits sometimes immediately after I push publish, and immediately after I pushed publish yesterday, Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News. Some are citing the $787 million settlement with Dominion Voting Systems as cause, but there seems to be more information coming out that it has to deal with more allegations against Tucker Carlson for inappropriate behavior, and we'll get more information on that as that comes out. But as it stands right now, Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News, and conservatives are, losing it. they are unsubscribing from Fox News as their, digital subscriptions, and they're deleting the apps from their phone. They are calling this to be the Bud Light moment for Fox News, because I guess conservatives really believe they did something to hurt Bud Light. Okay. Anyway, I digress. The point is that we do have cause to celebrate, because the chief propagandist for white supremacy has been removed. Now, he is not gone away. He is still going to be on the national stage, and he is still going to be doing the bidding of white supremacy. That's who he is. And just to put a fine point on it, here's John Oliver from This Week Today, or whatever his show is called, outlining exactly how much white supremacists and Nazis leaned on the coverage of Tucker Carlson. Listen in.
For the record, white supremacists themselves seem to be big fans of what Tucker's been doing. Just listen to Derek Black, a former white supremacist whose father started Stormfront, the largest, oldest white supremacist site on the internet, talk about just how much his family likes Tucker's show.
My family watches Tucker Carlson's show once and then watches it on the replay because they feel that he is making the white nationalist talking points better than they have, and they're trying to get some tips on how to advance it.
Yeah, they watch it once to enjoy it and a second time to learn from it. Of course Tucker has been endorsed by white supremacists. James Alsop, a far-right activist who marched in Charlottesville, once said this to a conference room full of fellow white supremacists.
An example of someone engaging in very effective rhetoric is, of course, Tucker Carlson. Tucker is helping mainstream conservatives change the way they think about politics and causing a massive swath of Trump voters to look deeper into many of the issues that we already talk about.
Last year, when endorsing Trump for president, Duke even suggested that Tucker Carlson should be his VP, explaining Tucker's value to the white supremacist cause like this.
He doesn't use the word white very often, but that's the underlying message that he's showing, and he shows that there is massive racism in America against white people, while at the same time saying there's no systematic racism. But people get the message.
Yeah, people do get the message.
Yeah. Period. That has been the breadth and the depth of Tucker Carlson's coverage. He simply puts a nice cosmopolitan prep boy, Manhattan veneer on top of what is a very rabidly racist white supremacist ideology. And don't get it twisted. White supremacy has always manifested itself in that form with a suit and a tie. The most dangerous form of white supremacy comes in a suit and tie, as evidenced by Tucker Carlson and by so many politicians in this country. There are a lot of people who are losing their minds today, but the Schadenfreude is just really delicious. And here's a clip from The Daily Show last night. It's very short, but when you consider the unparalleled attack against the LGBTQIA community that Tucker Carlson himself has also led the front on.
Wow. I can't believe that a network that's so opposed to gender-affirming surgery just cut off their own dick.
I had to drop that one. Yeah, congratulations, Fox News. Fox News is going to suffer because of this again, because conservatives are having a total meltdown there. Comparing this to the Bud Light moment, they firmly believe that Fox News is going to implode because of this, and that would be great news. Please, conservatives, if it wasn't good enough for us to get rid of Tucker Carlson, if you could do us the added bonus of helping us get rid of Fox News too, God bless you. I mean, I pray that my thoughts and prayers are with you. Like, may the universe assist you in destroying Fox News because they got rid of Tucker Carlson. I tell you, you all want to give me Christmas in April. It's just, thank you. Let's go to break.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
Here we go. Very special welcome to our newest patron. Ladies, gentlemen, and non-gender conforming individuals, give it up for Lara. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. This entire patron party is for you. Oh. Little DC DMV go-go. Oh. Wait a minute. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party, which we just had one last week. DJ Exclusive was in the house, and we had a great time. Patreon.com/The BPD Show, and we will be back after this commercial break, unless you are Laura and Leah and the rest of the patrons.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Yesterday we covered Moms for Liberty, who had a glowing profile on CBS this morning, or CBS Sunday morning. And to be fair to CBS this Sunday, whatever the name of the show is, it wasn't a profile. They did have some dissenting voices on there. But one thing you know about America and American media is that these groups don't care if opposition exists. They only care if you give them the promotion that they need to be seen all over the country. And so Moms for Liberty, which is, to me, a fascistic group of white women who are weaponizing their white womanhood and their white womanhood tears against not only the LGBTQIA community, but black folks. They are targeting the black community. I want to be sure the same folks who are trying to ban LGBTQIA even conversations, right? They can't even talk about it in the state of Florida in schools, right? They're the same folks who are banning African-American history. Same folks who are trying to ban so-called critical race theory that doesn't exist in grade school. They are masters of creating monsters that don't exist and then getting people fired because of the monster that they created. We saw this happen in South Carolina, Berkeley County School District, where Moms for Liberty had endorsed candidates who ran for the school board. They won. And as soon as they got the majority, they immediately fired the first black superintendent in the history of that country, of that county. So this is their agenda. They are doing the bidding of conservatives all across the country. In Florida, they are doing the bidding of Ron DeSantis, and they have assisted in the firing of multiple superintendents. Their newest target is Diane Green, the superintendent in Duval County Schools, a black woman, extremely successful there in the county. And she is being targeted not only by the state, Ron DeSantis, she's being targeted by Moms for Liberty. Their agenda across this country has been to weaponize their white woman tears to forward the conservative agenda, which is to deny any historical reality about racism, any modern conversations about racism and white supremacy. You could just forget it. And then they always lump in their transphobia and their homophobia to boot. And so it is always a 1-2 punch with Moms for Liberty along with the conservative movement. There is no question in my mind. If I look at what's happening in Duval County with the targeting of Dr. Diane Green, and from my understanding, she is she was rather the superintendent of the year in the state of Florida. And in the top 10 of superintendents to finish as the superintendent of the year for the entire nation. As I taught dropout prevention in Duval County, I learned how difficult, how really hard it was to get a successful graduation rate. She managed to get it up to 91% in Duval. And as someone who, was in the trenches in Duval, that is an astounding accomplishment. And yet she has been targeted to be fired. There are a lot of layers to this story and a lot more information that I want to give to you about it. But I want to make sure that we find and target the people who are doing the targeting of all of these black superintendents around the country, right? It's far past time for us to stop being on the receiving end of a highly coordinated conservative agenda, which is in lockstep with reactionaries across this country and across this globe. We are underneath a systematic attack that is happening at every single level. And it's important for us to understand how it's happening on the local level, particularly at the school board meetings. These are the same people who insisted on ensuring that students would not be able to wear masks to school and that teachers would not be able to wear masks to school. These are the same people aligned with Ron DeSantis who sat there and told children in a press conference that they didn't need their mask in the middle of a pandemic. And so we understand their agenda has coalesced around several pillars, and it's including history denial, right? They simply will not allow people to discuss the responsibility of this country for what they did to black people historically. They just don't want that in school. AP African American history has been banned in the state of Florida. Teaching of critical race theory, which never really was taught, that's the boogeyman, has been used as a boogeyman all across the country to get rid of superintendents. And now they're targeting this would be their 10th. This would be their 10th superintendent in the state of Florida that they have gotten rid of. And folks, when you weaken the school boards, right, you're weakening and you're putting in power people who are going to undermine teacher unions, people who are going to undermine your students clearly, and people who have a political agenda that is not remotely aligned with your best interests, but they are highly coordinated and they are very active, as evidenced by the interviews that we covered yesterday from CBS this morning, or CBS Sunday morning. And just to give you a little bit more background, I'll talk about it more in the Patrons Only episode, more of the details. Apparently, the method that they're using to attempt to oust Dr. Green, the black super successful superintendent of Duval schools, she's being targeted because of a longtime teacher who had been allowed to just fester at a school with complaints of sexual harassment against children, was finally identified and fired by Dr. Green's administration. No, you heard that right. A teacher who had been sexually harassing and eventually it looks like it turned into sexual assault, had been getting away with it in Duval County for years. And once Dr. Green's administration came in, he was identified, fired, and arrested. But because their administration allegedly did not report it to one particular reporting system, they reported it to DCF, they reported it to the police, they reported it to the teacher was arrested and fired underneath her administration. They are now saying that she is responsible because she did not have it reported to a particular state reporting system. That's yeah. I'm sorry. She's the one that fired him. I mean, she and as to who's supposed to do the reporting to this particular system, not to the Department of Children and Family Services, not to the police, not to the school board, not to the school, not to the parents, like all those things were done. But because one particular system in Ron DeSantis' the Department of Education, the school board apparently or possibly we don't even know those details, right? This is just a letter of accusation that came down to the school board. She's being targeted to be fired. I'm sorry. She got rid of the guy. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in the patrons only episode, patreon.com/the BPD show. But to me, this reeks of Moms for Liberty. One, because as of this previous election, it looks like a Moms for Liberty candidate was actually elected to the school board there in Jacksonville. And we see the fingerprints, the MO, the methodology of Floridian superintendents and Black superintendents all across this country being targeted by Moms for Liberty for nothing. And in this case, for something that she was responsible for handling, taking care of. She got rid of that teacher. But apparently that's not enough. Jacksonville is one of the cities that I had the pleasure of organizing with pastors in throughout this last summer. And, I have a lot of ties there. So I am interested in that story. And I'm interested in it not only because I was a teacher there at one time, but I'm also interested in it because we must fight back against these groups that are highly funded, highly organized, and they are executing the groundwork, the boots on the ground. They are the ones who are going to school board meetings all across the country. They are the ones who are making it impossible for us to get out of this pandemic because they are specifically targeting superintendents and school boards that tried to have mask mandates. They are specifically targeting any school board that could remotely be seen as quote unquote woke. And they are obviously doing the bidding of conservative reactionaries like Ron DeSantis, without question. So we'll keep our eye on that story along with others.
Senator Sinema, what about the $100,000 from your campaign fund spent on limos, wine, jets?
Today we're talking about tragic violence that occurs throughout our community.
Guys, let's keep the questions to that.
Over just the past 6 months, the senator has spent at least $18,000 on chauffeurs and luxury car services. She's spent at least $22,800 on hotels. This includes 5-star hotels like the New York Edition and the Rosewood Sandhill in California, where the rooms cost more than $1,000 a night. At least $31,900 on airfare. According to Newsweek, Sinema is among the top spenders in the Senate on private jets. There are also thousands of dollars in campaign expenditures at exclusive vineyards and wineries and luxury resorts. We reached out to Senator Sinema's campaign for comment. They said they have no comment on this.
Of course they have no comment on it because they did it. Kyrsten Sinema is by far one of the worst Democrats in this country. That's saying a lot because you still are competing with people like Joe Manchin, who went on Fox News last night to attack the Biden administration for their investments into the green economy and as it is attached to the Inflation Reduction Act. Here is Joe Manchin, a so-called Democrat. And again, I don't really care about the titles so much, except for the fact that most of America cares. And here is your Democrat. Here is the guy that people are saying, you got to vote for him, vote blue no matter who. Here's what vote blue no matter who got you. Here he is on Sean Hannity last night, Joe Manchin, talking about voting and repealing his own Inflation Reduction Act, which he used to hold this administration hostage in the first place.
Let me make it very clear. If this administration does not honor what it said it would do and basically continue to liberalize that, where $384 billion is what we're supposed to invest over 10 years, and they blow that out of the water and it's 6 or 7 or 800, I will do everything I can in my power to prevent that from happening. And if they don't change, then I would vote to repeal my own bill.
These two, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, they have stood in the way of all progress over the last 3 years during the Joe Biden administration. Now, I'm well aware of the controlled opposition. I'm well aware of the rotating villain theories. that suggests that these two have been propped up to make sure that nothing gets done, right? The best way for Democrats to not have to do anything for anyone is to always have someone like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, much like Joe Lieberman. Remember him during the debates of 2010 when we were trying to get the Affordable Care Act passed? There's always a rotating villain. But in this case, it is so patently transparent and laughably hilarious that this is allowed to continue when the entire party apparatus is very effective at getting rid of progressives, yet and still these two minions of the Republican Party are allowed to just stay and to pretty much go unchallenged, except for some really vocal voices on the local level that are doing their best to get rid of these two individuals. But if you want to look at who is instrumental in ensuring that the Biden administration didn't get anything done, here they are. And they're living in the spoils of it. Kyrsten Sinema, not coming from wealth, now getting to fly on private jets, now getting to stay at the nicest hotels across this country. It's just like this. She really believes she's living out a romantic comedy and she's the star of the movie. Joe Manchin has always been a coal baron. He has always been a person who's going to do the bidding of the wealthy because he is wealthy. He has his Maserati. He has his yacht. Never would forget the protesters who rolled up to him with rafts, makeshift rafts, and there he was lecturing them from the balcony of his yacht. Who needs Republicans when you got Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema? Patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Did we forget Don Lemon? We'll talk about it in the Patrons episode.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.